Hello, my friends, and welcome to today's episode of Stand Up. Thank you very much for allowing me, supporting my day off yesterday. Of course, Ava, 18, is home, her first, well, technically her second visit home since she left to study television, film, media at Ithaca College, a great college in upstate New York, not far from where I grew up, so my parents couldn't be happier that they've got their granddaughter an hour away, and she's home for the first time for Thanksgiving here, is what I meant. That first Thanksgiving visit, if you went to college and you remember what that was like, you get together with your high school friends, if you still have any, and she does, and it's awesome to have her here. Very excited to have Ava home. So many of you have been on this journey with me for such a long time and have watched my girls grow up. So it's really exciting to talk about her and hear about your kids as well and connect and network and help each other out understanding how to be parents. It's really so great to hear from so many of you who comment anytime I talk about my girls. Anyway, I am therefore going to be posting a little differently, a little lighter here on Thanksgiving week, but I'm definitely going to put up some great interviews, including with my very special guest joining me today for the first time. I discovered her on Twitter during the Trump years at some point, and we'd been following each other and kind of replying and retweeting every once in a while, but she got massive on Twitter, and it's been really crazy, exciting, original, and I think inspiring journey for JoJo from Jerz, who is joining me today. She is a middle-aged woman from a suburban conservative corner of New Jersey. Her name is Joanne Carducci. And prior to 2017, her social media presence was limited to, quote, mom Facebook. But the election of former President Donald Trump inspired her to explore Twitter and adopt an alter ego to make her own political feelings known. And now she's a massively influential poster. That is one media outlet, one of many that has profiled her, the Daily Dot, as well as all the New Jersey outlets have profiled her. She's now become a social media celebrity. She's got almost 1 million followers on Twitter, now X. She's developed her online audiences as well on Instagram, where she's got about 60,000, and Facebook over 20,000, and most impressively on Threads, the new website, that social media site that is really in competition with Twitter because it's, of course, the Facebook, Instagram one. There, she's got 155,000 followers. Also just launched with more depth than just the social media, a podcast and a Substack. And she's a really good writer. And so I'm very excited to have her joining me here for the first time. We've gotten to know each other over the last month or so because she actually reached out to me and asked me to join her on her new podcast. I was like, hell yeah, this looks awesome. We'll have a great time. And we have been talking offline, texting, getting to know each other and helping each other out a lot in terms of the similar type of work that we do. So I'm really excited to talk to her. She's a really cool woman, very, very smart, funny. We're getting along really good. And so here she is on the podcast. And by the way, I am on her podcast and she is on my podcast. That's what we're doing here. She's going to air this. I'm going to air this. So I'll ask her some questions and she'll ask me some questions, and we're both going to post it on our mutual exclusive podcast. So right now, Joanne Carducci, a.k.a. JoJo from Jerz. Yeah, we're off. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Pete.
Very excited to be on each other's podcasts. This is the first time I think I've done that, and I'm psyched to do it with you. Thank you for joining me and for having me also on your show.
Thank you for joining me and for having me also on your show. This is my inaugural duo. I mean, it's my first time.
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna be great for both of our podcast audience and most importantly for our careers, which I think will skyrocket after this.
I mean, that's the only reason I'm doing it. I mean, right. Really.
Of course.
Yeah. I was told you have a massive, massive following.
Yes. It's like mostly not on social media, though. A lot of them, they aren't. So you wouldn't know it. But yeah, it's huge.
Are they in Canada?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they don't have social media there. Well, let me just ask you, because you do have a huge social media following, but I think like one of the most interesting things is what it has wrought for you. And now you've got you're writing at Substack and your podcast, which are awesome, but you've been to the White House like 4 times as a result of all of this. And I really want to know why and what it was like and everything about that.
I mean, awesome because I have my own room there now, which is awesome. I mean, I have to bunk. Yeah, it's me and Brooklyn Dad Defiant, but it's nice because
You and Brooklyn Dad Defiant. It's just you guys are like the Avengers of social media. JoJo from Jerz, Brooklyn Dad Defiant.
Yeah, but you should see the number of memes that have been created by our trolls of us doing any number of things. Most of the time, really naked and really fat, which is always fun. So the trolls will have a field day knowing that, yeah, we have our own room at the White House and we bunk. But I have the top bunk because I think that's better.
You've been accused of being DNC shills as a result of your correspondence or visits to the White House. So what is the relationship?
I don't know that I'm a shill. It's not on my resume. I don't have a business card that says DNC shill. I'm working on that though. Actually, there's no professional or monetized relationship with the White House. Actually, what it is I believe in what they're doing. And I have a big platform, which, I mean, for better or worse, is just a reality. And I want to help them to amplify the administration's accomplishments, to amplify their messaging. I want to know all the facts about what they're doing, and I think that that's really smart on their part because what they did was they reached out to some, I guess you'd say influencers. I don't call myself that. I don't like that term, but people who have larger platforms on different social media.
Well, I do think it's important for context, and we haven't talked about this, but and sorry to interrupt you, but White Houses going all the way back have invited columnists. Started with influential columnists, opinion columnists, by the way, at the major newspapers, and then television people, and Obama did it, and Trump did it, and Biden's doing it. And the fact of the matter is, I think some people don't realize that many of the most influential people aren't necessarily connected to a corporate media outlet. They happen to be people like you and Alison Gill and all these other, Noel Kasler, our friend.
Mm-hmm. I think traditional media is sort of on the wane. I think people increasingly are getting, again, this is a double-edged sword for better or for worse, but they're getting a lot of their information,
right.
News, etc., from people on platforms like Twitter, I still call it that, or Instagram or TikTok. I mean, it's very much a double-edged sword, but it's smart for, an administration to utilize those platforms for messaging accurately on the wins that are massive, that get lost in all the noise.
So somebody might say, well, yeah, but, all these people in social media is bad. And let's say all the negative criticisms are valid. What are we going to do about it? Well, the only thing we can do about it is also be there fighting them. So I think people like you who got huge on Twitter and now you're, obviously doing this great stuff on Substack and podcast. You get a massive following on Threads already. So you're blending all this new media, but you have to be there. People have to be there doing what you're doing, being part of the resistance, which I actually don't think is a cheesy word. I think that's a real thing.
I think it's a real thing too. And I use the word all the time, but I do think it's crucially important because what we see increasingly is that those who want to spread the most disinformation want us to cede those spaces to them. So that they can go unchecked. And we've seen that a lot, in particular with Twitter, which has become really difficult to navigate. But to say that I give up or that I'm not going to, instead counter that with what I think is the greatest tool in humanity's arsenal, which is the truth and facts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cede that ground to them just because it's hard and scary and overwhelming sometimes. I don't think anyone should.
We fully agree on that, and I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing on all of those platforms, and all the links to Joe are in my show notes. I don't know what you put in your show notes for your version of this about me, but hopefully it's all of my major. I'm on all the things,
Yeah, I'm going to have all the things, plus a reference to Thor's hammer will be in there just randomly.
Great. Yeah,
people have to ask what that reference is.
Well, that was for off air. I do have Thor's hammer. Some people know I have Thor's hammer in my shed here. Yeah, people can do all they want to wonder what I do with Thor's hammer in my own time here in the shed.
I hope you spend some real one-on-one, hands-on time with Thor's hammer.
I do, as a matter of fact. I feel like you're insinuating something filthy, but the truth is, I am superhero-like, so I don't know what you mean. It's about powers. Anyway, what were you going to ask me? It's your turn now. You have to say, okay, now I'm on your show.
It's my turn. Yeah.
Oh, wait, I didn't get done. I want to know about the White House and Joe Biden. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. So you're right. This is actually, it's kind of cool because I did get to go to the White House a whole bunch of times. I was there 4 times, which is insane. One of the times was with my kids, which is probably the most special because I guess because they got to see something incredible up close, and I got to help facilitate that thing for them because I remember, I'm such a dork. This is going to be a long story. I'll try and make it really fast. But when I was in 8th grade, we went on our 8th grade field trip to DC, like, every kid in New Jersey did.
Yeah.
And I was the kid who everyone else is goofing off and want to go to the zoo and go back to the hotel to go to the pool. And I'm like, can we please go to the Capitol now? Can we meet Marge Rokema, our congresswoman at the time, which we did, and I cried. I was also the kid who walked into the Capitol Rotunda for the first time and looked up and started to cry. Really, really like sobbing, crying, just because I was overwhelmed with this reverence I had for this place where democracy is living and breathing and unfolding. And it felt like it felt like the citadel it is, right?
Yeah.
And so do you know what I mean? Do you have
Absolutely.
that feeling?
I felt the same feeling when I went there when I was young, and then again when I was older covering it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's a beautiful feeling. And I think that that's an extension of, understanding, for me anyway. I love this country and I understand it's imperfect, but I believed in that building, that's where we work towards perfecting it. Right. So that should be.
I mean, I feel like it's a marvel of architecture and also kind of a testament to imperialism. But I understand your point of view.
Yes.
Now, I'm just going to take the most cynical approach. I do know what you're saying. And I think especially for a young person, I think that stuff is important. So go ahead. So there you are in D.C. as a young person experiencing this. And
yeah, and we didn't get to go inside the White House as a kid. I remember I was really sore about that because I was like, but I won't get to cry inside the White House now. Sort of, my friends were teasing me. But so you fast forward through a life that I wanted to go into politics when I was in college. I majored in communications, politics, and law. I thought I was going to be the press secretary someday. I was sure of it. And my life did what lives do. And it didn't go the way I'd expected or hoped necessarily. I have no regrets. It just sort of took its own meandering path, which made me the person I am today. But to think that at 48 years old, which I was last year when I was going, that I would be able to not only go to the White House, but that I was invited there by the administration, by the president of the United States, and that I had an opportunity to meet him. A president, by the way, that I remember because I loved politics so much, seeing in a spread of candidates when he first ran for president and thinking, that's my guy. I like that guy. Huh. And I had no idea why. And then I got to meet him all those years later. And it was just, there was this full circle moment. It was like, I didn't take the path I thought I was going to take to get there. It didn't look the way I'd imagined it to look, but I never really abandoned this dream of mine. And then I was able to somehow see it come to fruition in a very different way. And it was really impactful and empowering and just like kind of confirmed that I can do what I set my mind to. And I had lost sight of that for a while.
Really sweet and wonderful story. And then your kids are like 10 and 14. And so that's an age where that memory, that experience will be indelible. And it wasn't like you went on the public tour. It's like, yeah, come on. The president invited your mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just, I mean, this is going to sound whatever, but it was so cool because we got to walk in and someone from the administration greeted us at the door. And she said to my kids, you know how cool your mom is?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. And they were both just see their
That's
faces
classy.
Light up in that moment. I was so proud.
That's a real classy. I want to know who said that. That's a very classy thing to do to a person, for a parent. That's so then just finally on your visits to the White House, like, what is it? Then you meet with like the communications people and they say, listen, thanks for coming, because there is obviously there are laws and ethics around certain things they can and can't do and say. So what is their hope, and what was your experience and has been your experience in talking and communicating with the Biden White House, the Biden administration people?
Well, unlike the former administration, they actually understand that the Hatch Act is a thing.
Right.
The Hatch Act separates the political side from, the government side, the functioning government side. So people who are not supposed to, those two are not supposed to meet, especially not in an official capacity or on the grounds of, the White House or any of those buildings. And so what we saw with the former guy was, the RNC literally being held on those grounds, which is a violation of the Hatch Act. But in the Biden administration, it's very clear. We were not there as a political sort of extension. It was the administration communicating the facts, the truth of what they're doing, what they're hoping to do on everything from the environment to the economy to jobs to inflation. And it was just different people from different departments coming to educate with the truth and facts on what the accomplishments have been. Because I think, again, they understand that with all the noise there is out there right now and disinformation, intentional disinformation, to just have the truth in the hands of the people who can, share that truth with the largest number of people and hopefully just people that trust them. I think that can have a huge impact. And I don't mean politically. I mean, in terms of just understanding the transparency of what your president, what your administration are doing for you every day.
Yeah. I suppose you always have to be careful when any government agency, much less the White House, gives you things.
Yeah.
And be skeptical of it because it is still, the government. I'm not saying people should be more skeptical of government than certainly any other entity, but when they, so wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then we had, this big gang bang at the end, which was awesome.
Oh, and everybody had sex at the end with Joe Biden and other administration officials? Wow. Is that an exclusive? Was Noel Kasler there?
No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But oh my God. I can't believe
he's the one that I know that was there. And I'm trying to think of others, but he's certainly the one I'd most love to make love to. He is very attractive man.
Very attractive man. Yeah. And unfortunately, he's also very funny, which really pisses me off. But he almost got me kicked out because I was my decorum. He nearly got me bounced from the White House because he was acting like a 12-year-old, and I am a 12-year-old, and he said something super inappropriate in the middle of someone very important speaking, and I laughed like
under his breath to you next to him, and you laughed in front of the teacher, but it wasn't the teacher; it was the White House of the United States.
Yeah. Don't have the name Bader and be anywhere near Noel. Okay.
Oh, that's too easy almost. You also told me though about Noel. Maybe this wasn't for air and I can cut it out, but he's very, very small, that he arrived in someone else's bag. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. I think it was, Allison Gill's bag. It was
he was inside of a bag. He's not.
It was a large bag though.
He looks like a full grown man on virtually when I've interviewed him, but I've never met him in person, but you have. So I'll send that clip to Noel. Okay. Anything else before we switch gears again?
Yes. What?
Anything else about the White House or the Biden administration or anything else that you want to share? I know you've said that he smells like hot cocoa, I believe.
Yeah, that was a fun one because I got to hug him, which was wild, really wild. I mean, wow. And I was so ecstatic about that event that day, being there, that whole experience, that I got to meet him, that my makeup was on point, that I went back to my hotel and decided to get shit-faced drunk on champagne. Because that's how I roll. And while I was shit-faced drunk on champagne, I thought it would be a good idea to answer Jay Black is Funny's tweet asking me what Joe Biden smelled like. And that's when I said he smelled like a cup of hot cocoa on a snowstorm night, and went on and on and on about it. And it was, it captured the moment.
That is so funny. I love when you do that kind of stuff on social media. Is it true that when Joe Biden, when you hugged him, he buried his nose in your hair and then put his hands on your shoulders and said, Jojo, I'm not kidding around here. Appreciate you. I'm not kidding around here. Let me smell your head again.
Yeah. Then he came in and whispered, I'm not kidding. This is not a joke.
What's that shampoo? It's a Per Plus. I'm not kidding around.
Little Joey's getting excited. Thor's hammer.
Thor's hammer. Callback number 2.
No, I do not have no, he did not smell my hair.
Nothing
unfortunately. I would have let him know.
That was just me.
Yeah. So that's my White House experience story. And do we shift gears now where I take over the questions?
Yes, we're on your podcast, which...
Okay. Welcome to Are You Effing Kidding Me, Pete? So I was going to change gears a little bit because full confession, I didn't know you beyond what I'd seen of you on, your Sirius XM show, your podcast, social media, etc. We have the same friends, but we'd never actually met. We never had a conversation.
We have a lot of mutual friends, we found out. It's really, that's been really fun and interesting to hear about those people and your experiences with them and networking. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that speaks to the similarities that exist between us, or the connections that exist between us. But I didn't even know until I started talking to you recently, just kind of how, introspective and sensitive a man can be, but also funny and smart and challenging and thought-provoking. So do you know any guys like that?
Yeah, Noel Kassler. Again, going back. Also, Jay Black. You mentioned Jay. I know Jay very well.
No,
and that's
serious.
very, very kind of you to describe me with those adjectives. That's what I'm going for. And so that means a lot. I feel seen. Thank you. That's very generous.
Well, it's true. And my question about that is not, I was joking about if you knew anybody like that, because you are like that. So my question about that is, what's that journey been like? I mean, were you this sort of like funny, tough, smart, but like super sensitive kid? Or was there, has your life sort of shaped you? And are you aware of moments that might have been more impactful on this person you've become now?
Oh, wow.
Look at me taking it to the serious.
Really psychoanalyzing the roots of who I was as a child.
Do you want to lay down on a couch and tell me all about it?
Well, I'm hesitant to talk about myself that way because it seems so self-serving, but I do think there's a way to talk about it, because I think to describe it as where I've ended up in my life as the kind of man, I think, who just tries to be really mindful of what I have and who I am and the role that I play, and especially raising my daughters. So I have thought a lot about who I want to be. And in terms of how I got to be, some of those adjectives that you describe, I like to think could be attributed to me, but is result in a large part to my parents. For sure, my mom was a public school teacher in the city of Syracuse. But my older brother was and continues to be kind of an inspiration and a muse to me, because when we were younger, he was bullied, my older brother, and ridiculed for being a nonconformist, basically. And he taught me he's just an amazing kid, and taught me all kinds of things about life and made me curious about journalism and history and religion and all of the things. But I think he also really taught me about feminism and the history of feminism, which he was interested in, or I never would have been. And he was to be like, read this and talk to me about it. And then anti-racism even at a young age, and introduced me to the work of people like Tim Wise, who I have later on, of course, become friends with. So more than anything, he was my teacher and kind of crafted, I think, the person that I am. And I like to think I took it from there, but I continue to try to, I think more than anything, practice every day, trying to be that person. I have a whole meditation practice that I talk about a lot that I've learned and continue to refine. So how's that?
It's awesome. I mean, I think I want to go back to this bully idea, because one of the things you and I definitely align on and agree on is that, there's a whole thing about fighting bullies. Bullies suck. And and this is a good segue, actually, because you're such an advocate against bullying that you have been on Bill Maher's show a bunch of times, right? And one time. Just one time. That was the only time?
Yep.
Well, damn. Okay, then this is even bigger, because I thought you were just like, oh, I know you. I can roll with this. But
no, never got invited back. As a matter of fact.
Well, I wonder why. Okay, so speaking of bullies, right? Bill Maher, in my opinion, I think he's a bully. Mm-hmm. I think he really hates women. I think he has a problem with women. He's in the news again for being an awful person because, of course, he criticized Biden's age now when before he used it as an asset. But he's Bill Maher, so nope, he doesn't think anybody's going to hold him accountable for anything. Going back in time, though, there's an episode where you join the panel, and it's Billy Bush, right, who's also there. And the clip I've seen is of you basically calling Billy Bush out, because the other bully in the room was Donald Trump in the Access Hollywood tape. And to Billy Bush's face, you say essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, maybe you could do it better than me.
Well, you know what? You told me that you're going to bring this clip because you might ask about it. So I'll throw it in.
Here it is.
It's a great quote from Maya Angelou. When you knew better, you did better.
Here's a good quote. Here's a good quote from an Australian general after their sexual assault epidemic. It's a shorter version of what Naira said. And the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. And I don't know, I never thought I'd say, with all due respect, Billy Bush, you chose that job, you were in that situation, and your situation is now representative of what Nair said. Every single one of us has to stand up in those moments. That's the only way it turns around. You could have, you should have, you didn't. In the future, I hope you will, and I hope everybody that saw that and heard that tape knows that is unacceptable, and you have to stand up to assholes everywhere all the time. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept.
So,
how courageous, I know, but I mean, that's...
I know, but so in your life, off camera, you never had locker room talk with another guy like that? Before 2017, you were always completely respectful in your own private talkings with other men?
Absolutely not. I objectified women. I looked at women as vessels to be conquered when I was growing up, but I matured at some point. I had good role models, and the idea is, locker room talk for me was I would like to have sex with that girl, and another guy would say, she's never going to fuck you. That's what happened. That's what it sounded like to us. That was locker room talk. You didn't say, I'm going to take sex from that girl, and if some guy did say that, even when I was in 7th grade, yes, I would have shut him down.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, what I found so remarkable watching that is, first of all, that you just said it. You just said to Billy Bush what a million trillion women I know would have loved to say, but also men, which is the truth. You had an opportunity to stand up and say something, and you that incredible quote, the standard you walk past, right, is the standard you accept. I'd never heard that, and it made so much sense to me. As a mom, especially, but as a human being, as a woman. And you just said it. You gave it to Billy Bush. He looked a little bit shocked by it. And then Bill Maher, this is, I think, a tell about himself, seemed offended and needed to defend Billy Bush and sort of tried to drag you down and kneecap you by saying, oh, come on, you've never done that in your life. And what I love about what you did, too, was you gave it back to him with honesty, with truth, but also like, yeah, I did say inappropriate things. I did think inappropriate things about women, but I grew up, and also I understand the distinction between, having sex or wanting to have sex with a woman and taking it. And I just think that was brilliant, but it also just kind of encapsulates you because you'd made it funny. It was honest. I'm going on and on and on about you, and I'll give you a chance to answer, I promise. But I'm going to gush for a minute too, because it was incredible, but it's not like it wasn't a one-off. You were honest. You had integrity. You were truthful. You didn't give a shit what either of those two guys thought. And you just nailed it and shut it all down. So A, thank you. And B, that's just easy for you. Is it easy for you to just be completely true to yourself and no holds barred?
That latter part is easy. I think the struggle that I have is keeping my mouth shut at times when it's appropriate to, my kind of brand of stand up, and that idea, that quote, which is, by the way, from an Australian Army general, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept, was about a sexual harassment epidemic in their military. We have terrible one in ours. And that's where I got that from. But so sometimes you should stand up, and sometimes the standard you walk past is the standard. You can't do it all the time. And I have in the past, maybe been confrontational with people where I maybe didn't need to be. So it's not always the most appropriate thing to do to be just because you can. So I've had to limit that myself in some ways, especially my daughters have kind of beat that out of me as well. They're like, Dad, you don't have to say anything. That you're not going to change that person. We're at a TGIF restaurant. That it's our Uber driver. I don't think they really need to know all the ins and outs of the 1619 project.
If you wanted a cup or a bowl of the loaded baked potato soup, sir.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. I've just lectured you on all kinds of geopolitical theory. So I think that, but you're on TV in that case. We were talking, and I knew that I would have, before I went on that show, how big, the same thing with Joe Rogan, although the outcome was different on that show, I think, for me. But you have an opportunity to, you're going to have an opportunity to answer something in the moment, and you just hope that you'll have something good. But I'd been there before, and talking during the Me Too movement and talking about the, kind of the appropriate response. that boys and men should have when it has. And there's nothing wrong with thinking things. I still objectify women. I still think things that are inappropriate, but I think the difference, you recognize it in your mind. You don't do or say a certain type of thing. So you have to learn that. And I don't know that Billy Bush ever did. And I'm not sure that a lot of men necessarily do, but a lot of us definitely do. There's a lot of great guys. I have a lot of amazing men in my life who are friends hiding. They're not hiding anything, Joe. Yeah. They're really good guys. They're mindful and they're trying to be good role models for their kids, for their partners.
I mean, I think right now, given what we're seeing in terms of the never-ending toxic masculinity on display, even in our, again, going back to that building I have such reverence for, that you and I share such reverence for, the Capitol building and the things that we've seen unfolding there. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It's not like somebody snapped a finger and it got instantly like Jerry Springer, but it's definitely ticked up quite a bit in recent days, like what we saw last week with a sitting senator. Okay, he sits in a big chair because he's little, but still, trying to start a physical fight in the middle of a committee hearing.
Oh, Mark Wayne. Mark Wayne, come on over here. The moonshine is almost done. Mark Wayne. That's all. Mark Wayne. Yeah.
Mark Wayne, MMA Mullen, trying to start a fight with a Teamster. Yeah. And it was like, you want to go? You want to go? You want to go? Let's go.
You are a United States Senator.
Which I need that on a t-shirt.
This is why people hate us, stupid.
Sit down.
Sit down. Mark Wayne is not the first time anybody's ever said that sentence.
It was amazing. It was like your grandfather.
No, but I think what your point is, it's like that brand of behavior, whatever you call it, toxic masculinity, whatever you call it, is insidious in our culture.
And being rewarded all over the place.
Better point. Yes.
Why he doubled down on it.
That's why he did it. To get the rewards, to get his flower. You're absolutely right. And not only is it, but people, because of, I would argue, Trump and plenty of others, but yes, it's rewarded. It's virtuous. It's attractive.
Well, and it's funny because I've been doing my own research on Facebook, and I recently saw some polls that showed statistics on, first of all, 2016, and one I don't think I ever realized fully just what an impact the Muslim travel ban had on his favorability, but it was a huge, huge factor. And it's sort of indicative of this larger trend towards, autocracy, authoritarian, strongmen, violence, et cetera, that now, like statistically, 73% of all Republicans would support someone who breaks the rules to get things done. And that's the party now. Like, so they're not even, I wouldn't even say that they're pro-authoritarian. They're pretty pro-fascist now. And so now the expectation is that they're going to go and they're going to fight and Kevin McCarthy's going to, maybe or maybe not punch somebody in the kidney. And Mark Wayne McMullen or Mullen or whatever, MMA Mullen is going to do that fight. And Matt Gaetz is going to point, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to call Lauren Boebert a whore. And this is where the party is now. And it's interesting because, we have this opportunity with guys you just identified, guys like you, men who are out there paying attention to, the softer side of existence against that backdrop.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like, I don't mind masculinity. I don't mind that word, or femininity. Yeah. I think there's a lot of places for them. And I think gender is, we could say it's not a thing or it is a thing. I'm no expert on that, but I think I'm trying to, and others, trying to redefine masculinity. I like the idea. I like the phrase mindful masculinity. My friend Anousheh Hussein said that once. She's like, I think you have a mindful masculinity. And then I started thinking about that and like, how do we redefine to be strong, to be masculine? And I think there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. And I have so many men in my life who have role modeled those ways. And I'm attracted to those types of guys who, like, I basically, even when I was 4 years old, I walk up to certain guys. I'm like, will you be my friend? And I also think there's a lot of guys who listen to my program who have that. I mean, most of them have that kind of similar mindset, and as well as a kind of odious rejection of that toxic masculinity. Like, I get triggered by that. I don't like being around those types of guys. And when I am, I put them down.
Yeah, or you say to their face, like in Billy Bush's case,
That's what
like,
I meant. Like as a comedian, like they, in my entire career, I put to their face, if need be, I put them down, and that has almost gotten me killed, and I've been knocked out twice as a result, but I'm not the smartest man always.
I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing that, but maybe with certain people. Like, I think if you walked up to like a Patrick McHenry and you're like, by the way, I don't like, this thing you did, you'd probably be better off.
I had a guy, like, I'm trying to think the last time it happened where I ran my mouth and it got scary was during COVID, and we were in a deli, and this guy was without a mask, and an older woman in line said, could you please put a mask on? And he started yelling at her. And I stepped in and I was like, that's, I calmly actually said, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's fine. And then he got in my face. He's like, you want to go? And he's like, I basically, I wasn't scared of him because he was fat and old. So I thought I could take him. He's like, my height, fat and old. Joe's like, I'm not, if he were bigger, I would have probably bet that. But I said to him, I remember just saying to him, I go, there are 17 cameras on us. I desperately want you to punch me in the face, because if you do, I'll own your pickup truck in an hour. Like, I'll sue the pants off you, buddy. And then I remember, and then I got free coffee at that place for a while. So it was worth it. That guy didn't kill me.
I think
I'm a hero in the end of that story.
You are a hero. Yeah. Did you get a medal for that?
No, but did I tell you about the time I saved a plane? That's for another conversation. Go ahead.
Why not tell that story now?
No, people have heard it. My people have heard it. You have to have me back for that one. Anyway, it's my turn to ask a question.
It is?
I mean, I don't know. Do you want to keep talking about this? I love this conversation about gender, especially masculinity, which I do think I can speak to, and I do hope to redefine it and help redefine it. But I'm learning. I'm on the journey myself. So.
Okay. Well, yeah. No. Okay. So, I mean, I was going to ask you about Thanksgiving besides, but we can pivot back to you. You can ask me the questions again. It's fine.
Well, let's do a lightning round of like fun Thanksgiving at the end or something.
I like that. Let's do that.
Because the flow to this conversation is you did ask me something somewhat personal. And so I want to ask you something somewhat personal, because at your Substack, you have written at least 3 that I've seen, and I tried to read as much as I could. You've only started, a few months ago, right, with Substack? So I'm not sure how many pieces, but you've written at least 3 very personal pieces. And let me try to list the subject. One was about losing your brother and addiction. Another one was about a horrible sexual assault. But then you also wrote about, and I just read this one, something called empathetic distress, this idea of feeling the pain of others, even strangers, and internalizing it. And I thought that was really interesting because, of course, I could somewhat understand the other issues that you dealt with in your life. But that one I thought was really interesting. And I thought maybe I could ask you about that. Or more importantly, how has been writing about these very personal things and putting yourself out there? How have you been received? Because I think it's really courageous and brave and healthy. And I think some of them are certainly great for women that have had a similar experience. But a lot of it is just, I think, better for those of us who haven't, especially this issue of empathetic distress, which I wasn't really familiar with.
To the larger question about how it's been received and sort of like how it feels for me, it's been cathartic for me. I mean, these are things, and I try to take people on the journey with me where they understand why this is suddenly something I feel compelled to talk about. And it's a journey for me into unpacking my own like trauma and life and putting it out there as me sorting through it. I also identify all the time that I didn't have anybody to do that for me when I was experiencing these things. Back to this, it's for better or worse. People seem to be interested in my perspective on things. I don't pretend to be anything I'm not. I'll never pretend to be an expert on any of these issues or anything really, other than I would say I'm an expert on like baby diaper blowouts because I got really good at those. But that was a long time ago, so I may not be expert now. It's all
so much different now with these new diapers and bowel movements with babies that.
Babies are totally different. It comes out at a different end, and the diapers are on their heads.
Yeah, whole new thing. These new parents are crazy.
Yeah, I guess it is pretty timeless, but I wouldn't know if diapers have changed. I don't have grandkids yet, so I'm easy with that. But it's been an incredible journey for me because I feel for myself that I take the power away from things in my life. The power to manipulate my thoughts and actions or fears or worries or things that keep me from trying new things, I take the power away from them when I write about them. So that's been very helpful for me. But the hopeful goal really is that someone else can feel seen, because I doubt very much in this large world of ours that I'm the only person, that these problems are not, they're not exclusive to me. So if I can reach one person who's like, I don't feel myself seen anywhere in this world, I'm alone, that they're not alone, then I've done something impactful that I never got to experience. So
well, it certainly resonated. I can see that like so many people are resharing and commenting. You're creating a conversation with each post. People should definitely subscribe that are, if they aren't already subscribing as podcast listeners to your Substack, and they aren't as listeners to my podcast, they should, because it's great. I love the writing, and you're also a great writer, and I guess that's what you wanted to do even when you were little. So look at you now doing it. A lot of dreams coming true at this point in your life. It's wonderful to see that happen, and I think a lot of people are sharing in your success and being inspired by it.
Thanks. I mean, I think that, like, it sounds like one of those, I have a lot of those posters on the wall that are inspiring messages like be brave, be kind.
Me too. I love it. I've been surrounding myself with that shit forever. It works for me.
I don't know. I'm sure there's some like technical term for how that stuff enters your subconscious when you see it. I don't know what it is. But it's really, it's very reaffirming and reassuring about just myself, but also there's a larger message for other people. I think I can tell, which is don't mirror my life. Like, I'm not saying like you need to do the things the way I did them, but I do believe there's something to believing. Really, people used to say, "Oh, if you dream it, you can be it," or if you just, put yourself out there.
I think that's actually a Scientology precept.
Yeah, seriously. Like, it sounds like Kool-Aid drinking shit. And I used to be like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Nobody can tell. Please don't say, if you really want it, you can make it happen. Because I was like, I've wanted lots of things. I want a pot of gold. Where is it? I don't see it. And then one day I decided somehow over this long, long journey of my life, the last several years, which has changed dramatically, to be like, you know what? I want this thing. Maybe it's implausible. Maybe it's impractical. Maybe it's impossible, but I believe I can do it. And ever since I changed my mindset, it's the power of positive thinking, but ever since I've changed my mindset that way, that has actually started to happen. But I've also, you and I talked about this too, and I'm going to really run on really fast about this, but there's also something Fred Gutenberg writes about. Fred Gutenberg is the daughter of Jamie Gutenberg, who was unfortunately, sadly, horrifically
the father
murdered.
of Fred lost his daughter Jamie in the Parkland shooting. I think
the father of Fred has a book. He talks all about finding the helpers in life to help you through all sorts of things. In his case, through that tragedy, and also his brother's death as a result of the toxins he was exposed to on 9/11. And I do believe that is true. I think that you can put something out into the universe. For me, anyway, good people who came just out of nowhere appeared to help me. And I've embraced that and leaned on that more and more. And I also believe that it's true that you can manifest these things. And I know that sounds like I should have chakras and crystals and some kind of like incense burning and stuff, but I really do feel this way.
I think it's interesting that you've endorsed Marianne Williamson, even though you've been such a supporter of Joe Biden for so long.
Never.
No, I'm not making fun of that. You said that, and I just made the joke. I think there's a lot of truth that people have different modalities and different ways to manifest the success of any kind of sort that they want, from being healthy to be successful to everything, personal and professional. Well, so that was the first part. The other part was those 3 articles, or maybe something else that you published or wrote that's also personal. Anything specific about any of those that you wanted to share? Because I thought it was really, really interesting to hear you talking about your brother and addiction, and obviously the trauma of sexual assault. And you wrote that as a being triggered by the kid from that 70s show, being his whole case being public and being sentenced, I think, for rape. And then, of course, this issue I mentioned about empathetic distress, which I think is fascinating. I think I share that to some extent with you, that idea, that quality.
Yeah, honestly, I think there's something that ties them all together, which is that you are aware of being present, being present in your reality, in your moment, and acknowledging that. And for me, being present in my writing sometimes and oftentimes takes me back to my past. But what I mean by that is that the present is when I'm feeling this. now in this day and age with the perspectives and the reflections that I have, but I can only tell the stories in this voice, the one this body that I'm walking in now. So it is being present in the way that I think about things now, the way these experiences fall on me. And the interesting thing about the empathetic distress piece is that I'd never heard those words together in my life. I didn't know that was a thing. And I couldn't understand what was wrong with me, because what triggered that, I realize now, again, with being present and what was happening to my mind and my body, after October 7th, and I felt this compulsion to really understand what had happened and try as hard as I could to see the horrible things that were done, because I thought it was unfair and selfish of me to look away, because I felt like they had to go through it. They have to go through it. And I'm just casually going to like flip through and scroll through these horrible stories. It didn't feel right to me. Still doesn't really feel right to me. And so what I did was I watched and read.
Even though you're Lebanese.
I am Lebanese, yes. And yes, I'm Lebanese. And my dad's insight on this, God bless you, Dad, I love you, we lost him in 2011, would be very interesting right now. But he's not here.
But the point is that, people making all these remarks about tribalism, in this case, your ethnic background, mine as well. I'm a quarter Lebanese, as we have established off the air.
I'm more Lebanese than you are.
Which is that you're searching for empathy for the victims here, who are obviously Jewish. And I don't think that makes us special to feel that empathy, but I think it's worth, I'm making a joke, but it's also, worth pointing out that is you made an actual conscious effort to say, I don't want to look away from this, which I think is important and interesting. And go ahead, because it was from October 7th to, I think.
Yeah. And just the same way, I don't want to look away from a 6-year-old in Chicago named Wadea being stabbed 26 times by his landlord because he was Palestinian.
Right.
I wouldn't look away from that either. I won't look away from
which is easy to do as a parent. You want to look away.
Right.
You want to be
right. Because again, I really do think, and this is going to sound so whatever, and I always I'm couching my couching, which I layer couches, which is nice. I feel like I live in Tennessee. No offense to people in Tennessee, but my couches aren't on my front yard. But I digress. So what I mean by all of that is that I think we forget sometimes just how much humanity we share, and that you can have enough room in your heart to be devastated by a Palestinian baby being pulled from the rubble of its apartment building because the Israelis responded with military force, because there were party goers, festival goers who were hiding in bomb shelters. Not to take this a very dark turn, but this is a real turn. They had grenades thrown into these bomb shelters where they were hiding, and repeatedly. And I think we have the capacity to care about all of that. And I think we often forget, because what connects us really, again, is that humanity. But as a mom, as a human being, if you don't feel something about a 6-year-old being stabbed 26 times by a landlord who built him a treehouse the week before, who didn't celebrate his birthday, I mean, you can't. I don't believe in politicizing that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that there are as many things that divide us as we think. And I think we need to get back to I know it's harder. It's like easier said than done. But I think that that's important for me. I will say with that comes the caveat, as is the topic of that piece. There is this thing called empathetic distress I didn't know was out there, which is you can physically feel, you want to empathize, and you can be compassionate, but there's a line where sometimes compassion and empathy turn into this place where you are now taking on those burdens of, like, it's not a burden, but taking on that pain.
Yeah.
And that can manifest in your physical body, bro. I was just shutting down. I thought I was dying. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't get up. I couldn't move. I didn't know what it was. And someone identified it. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, you wrote about it and talked about all the different references to it and experienced it. I thought it was fascinating. And I like the idea, because I too feel like I've done that a lot, especially when you're paying attention to the news for a living. It's hard to look away because you can't in many ways. You should take breaks if you aren't. But you can feel other people's pain, but you can't make that pain your own. That saying is something I have to sometimes remind myself of, like, okay, it's okay. It's okay that I'm not making that person's pain mine, but I'm still being empathetic outwardly to them. So I love that. All right, it's your question for me. Then I got one more for you. Then maybe we can do our lightning round-ish.
Lightning round. Okay. All right. So mine seems so serious, but you talk a lot about being a dad to girls. And it's sort of an extension of the last conversation we just had about empathy and compassion and feeling other people's pain. But I know that being a dad is incredibly important to you. And I, if I dare say myself, I think you're a pretty awesome dad. But
that's what I'm trying to put out there publicly.
What's that?
You think I'm an awesome dad. You don't know, but I mean, I do put out like a lot of pictures of me with my girls. I don't actually spend that much time with them, but when I do, I take a shit load of photos and put them out. Well, sometimes I have to Photoshop them with me doing stuff because.
Well, I mean, even sort of just like on a smaller, like that kind of adorable level, there's a TikTok of you filming your daughter's backpack because these backpacks now are so stupid heavy that are really
worried about the future of her spine.
Right? Yeah. My son, his backpack weighs, I think, more than him, and he weighs a lot. But for real, it was an adorable video because it really resonated with me.
I didn't remember I was just commenting on how heavy the backpack is.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're like, did you not have lockers? I think you said something like that.
I don't understand why these kids are carrying all of their stuff. And it doesn't seem to be like my daughter's school. It seems to be generationally. Like the whole country, kids don't use their lockers anymore. The lockers were like awesome. You'd stop there and that's where you'd talk to people. And sometimes you'd get put in a locker and that would be really, really traumatic for you. And that's why you'd end up doing stand up. But I like the lockers.
Yeah, it used to be a whole thing where there was the stoner section of the lockers, and then there was like the band section. Yeah. Anyway, and my locker was next to the metal shop, which was weird because I don't think metal shop exists anymore, and it always smelled like metal. But back to the dad thing. I know you have a lot of insight and perspective and reflections on what it is to be a dad to girls. How being a dad to girls in particular, how impactful that is and important that is, and I think. In the conversations, there's sort of that maybe there's a thread that weaves all of this together from the top to this part now about sort of pushing back against all the toxicity that's out there. And there's just so much hate and division. And you have this awesome responsibility of being this male dad to girls.
So your question is?
So my question is, sorry.
I mean, that was more of an assertion. I do have that awesome responsibility of being a male father, which I do identify as to my female daughters. That's all true.
Okay, good.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Well, why are you cognizant of it? I think that's the question. Why is it that you seem to think about? Why don't you just dad or not dad?
I think, to be honest with you, it was less. It's not less about gender. It was. I was set to be a good parent because I had great parents. I think that's pretty much the most important thing. I had great parents. I wasn't going to be worse than my parents, and sometimes I have been. But I'm sure of it. But when I found out I was having a girl, I was devastated. I was just, I don't know. I was under this weird assumption that a pretty good life, lucky life, and a lot of things just seemed to work out for me or shake out for me. And I just assumed I'd have a boy because my dad had 2 boys. I have a brother. I'm into boy stuff, generally speaking, whatever that is these days. But traditional boy stuff, 80s and 90s boy stuff, whatever. And when I found out I was going to be a girl dad, I was upset. I was insecure. I was like, what are we going to do together? I don't know how to be a girl dad. I don't know girls well. I know they love to be my friend only. I know that. But so I think as a result of that, wanting to be a good parent, I immediately accepted, the idea of I was going to be a girl dad. And I got, while Val was pregnant, I got books and about raising daughters and stuff. And I learned about girls and everything. And my goal was to raise a confident, independent young woman early on. And so I read books with titles like that and stuff. But then when Val got pregnant with our second daughter, the opposite thing happened because I was so in love with my 2-year-old then. I was terrified I might have a boy. And so I was so excited that I had a girl because now I had 2 girls and all those books. I didn't have to do as much research maybe as a boy. And so I just wanted to be a good dad. I had girls. What did that mean? I do think there's a lot that you can learn. And that's why I'm actually quietly working on a book for men raising daughters now, because I think now that my daughters are 16 and 18 and they are independent, confident young women. Both of them are just magically amazing human beings who are going wherever they want to go in their lives, as far as I can tell. Certainly away from me. Come back. Come back. I've learned about that too when it's time to spread your wings. Ava's a freshman at Ithaca College. And so I think that was it. I think curiosity drove me wanting to be a good dad. But I also, again, have to say, I am super inspired by my fellow dads out there. I think my generation of dads, we can be negative and we can complain about all kinds of different terrible qualities that men of my generation have. But I know a lot of great guys who really do put being a parent, being a dad in front of being good at their job, which I think is new-ish, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. I think it's so important, especially as we're seeing there's a increasing percentage of young boys like 14 to 19 who are leaning in a more I guess you could say conservative, but I don't think that's the term anymore. Republican sort of mindset.
Well, there's that whole generation. There's a whole bunch of propaganda with Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, and they are telling very, very convincing, provocative stories, narratives to young boys and men, and it's a real it's very dangerous. Yeah.
It is. And you couple that, and this is just, again, I'm not an expert, but you couple that with what, the COVID lockdowns did sort of to that different, ages, but different impacts. But like to young men, I have a 14-year-old son who missed really big chunks of like really formative time where instead of interacting with girls that he might like and just sort of feeling his way around that awkwardness or whatever, or anyone he liked, instead of doing that, he was sitting playing Fortnite. With his buddies and getting instantaneous gratification drilled into the, not yet formed frontal cortex of like his brain, where he didn't learn those ways to kind of negotiate reality, but also was being fed the completely counter narrative about how life works. And
instead of learning the ways of a young lady, he was slaughtering people in a video game.
But he was dancing, so it was fine. I'm
sure there's a whole bunch of people of his generation, bunch of boys and men. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of research on this. Have you heard of Richard Reeves and his work on this?
No.
So good. I'm going to look up the book and I've been trying to get him on. I had him, and then we had an issue with the interview. But Richard Reeves, The Fall of Men, I think the book is.
I see this in real time with my son's peers. That's just, and their coaches.
Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It is one of the most important books. And we talk a lot about women and girls, and I have most of my career, but I've really started to get more interested, or as interested now. My daughters are, older, and so what you're talking about is a really important issue for parents raising young boys to learn about this, which I think he does it better than anybody in his new book. And so, sorry.
Well, that's a really good spot for my last question. So, because you tried, and you hopefully will get him on your show. Let's talk about your show for a second, because you're doing Stand Up with Pete, right? And you're doing it in your shed now. And it's a little bit different. You've been on a journey from, having your own show on Sirius XM, but now you didn't just say, oh, well, that's it. I'm packing it up. I don't have that show anymore. I quit. I'm going to go, sell, I don't know.
Solar panels.
Bracelets. What? Floor panels?
Solar. At one point when my gig at Sirius XM ended, a inspiring young entrepreneur who listened to the show was like, come work for me selling solar panels. And I had lunch with him. I was desperate.
But you didn't sell solar panels.
No, I just let him buy me lunch, and I started a podcast.
But here you are. I want to answer the question, I guess, is that experience going from, you talked about it. It was pretty much a dream job, and then losing it.
Yeah.
And then how do you go from there to not selling solar panels, but to being in your shed and resilient?
When given the opportunity to talk about it publicly, as I am on our mutual podcast, what I try to do is talk about the really dangerous, dramatic, awful scenario that a lot of men, middle-aged men, in their 40s-ish, are facing today, and I just heard from another listener of mine, you are doing a job that you worked really hard to get to where you're at, it's going great. For whatever reason, you lose that job. You can't then get a job in a similar industry paying that. It's very, very, very hard for people to do that. And I think it's a little bit different for women. Again, I'm stereotyping here, but if you're a guy and you lose your job, to a certain extent, that's your purpose, especially when your girls are your girls. I'm obviously talking about myself, but your kids are of a certain age, and whether you're married, if you're married, the status of that, like your job is your purpose. And when you lose it and you can't then make that kind of money and you don't have the energy, the motivation, the inspiration to start something new at this point, and then maybe it works and maybe suicide is epidemic for men like that. And I went through the worst suffering of my life, and I've had an amazing life, but losing my job was my dream job. I was doing it. All of my dreams had come true, as a matter of fact, by age 40, professionally and personally. I'm so lucky and fortunate. So I worked really hard to create this podcast, and the reason it's been successful is because I was at SiriusXM for so long, doing live radio 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, talking to the best experts in the country on a broad range of issues, so I could bring that audience, enough of them, with me that they could subscribe to my podcast. And so it's been an amazing experience. And most importantly, we've created a community of people through the pandemic and out of it that has grown to become friends and network with each other and real life. And so I never expected to build a community, but hopefully your listeners will come over and give us a taste and join us. And obviously mine will hopefully be subscribing to all your stuff. But that's been a remarkable and unpredictable outcome, is to create this community along with the daily podcast that I've done. And I feel lucky and fortunate. And if it ends tomorrow, it will have been amazing. Amazing. I feel very, very lucky. And then I've learned a bit of resilience along the way, Joe.
Yeah, no, I think I think having those conversations about facing adversity and finding your way to, this unexpected truth or reality I think it's interesting to reflect on that all the time, because you didn't expect this community to appear, and now it's there, and it's so important not only to you but to them. And you have your Patreon as well, right? So that's different. Is that different from the podcast subscription? No,
the whole thing is Patreon. I do a daily podcast, and it's fully supported by paid subscribers like you. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. I mean, I'm not totally shocked. I'm very good at what I do.
Yeah, you are very good at what you do.
I'm good at finding great guests. That's what I'm good at. And that's why I'm excited to have you on. And that's all I do. I have really smart people that agree to come and talk to me, and I tape it and I share it every day.
Yeah. You know what, though? I will say this. You are selling yourself a little bit short. And I know I'm being a bit of a fangirl, but I don't think that it's just because you get good guests. You know how to talk to people when you have those people on. It's natural for you. Now, I don't know if it always was, but it's very much natural for you now. And I'm definitely not there. I have a long, long, long way to go and a lot to learn from people. Maybe you know somebody. I'm just kidding. But I think that is a skill that you can't sell yourself short on. I don't think you do necessarily, because you are very, very good at your job. But it's not easy. You can have a great guest. You can have the most beautiful, amazing Lebanese blonde from New Jersey, and she could still stumble over her words and act like an idiot. And you have to find a way to rein it all in and talk to her and make sense of it, because she talks a lot and acts like an idiot. But
don't get me wrong. This episode's giving me an editing nightmare for my people. My people. Bruce, you're going to have to edit this. No, I think, like my conversation with you today, honestly, again, I appreciate your kind words about being a good interviewer. I think I am. But I prepare, I really legit make it my job to know as much as I possibly can about someone before I tape a conversation with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a lot to learn from that too, because sometimes I think, I'll just learn while we're talking. And then it's like, and then I didn't know about solar panels, and I feel like an idiot when I should have known about solar panels. And it's like, Joe, learn from Pete, do a little bit more research and know the things, because there's a reason he's, at the top of his game. And then there's a reason you're in your mess.
No, I'm on my way down. Don't make no mistake about it.
Well, that's what she said.
Hey, she did? She was on her way down?
I don't know who she is, but she said it. She said it to Joe Biden when he was holding Thor's hammer.
Well tied together. A lot of callbacks all at once. That person is weird. They're really telling as opposed to showing. Gonna go down now. Maybe they're just, a modern person trying to seek consent, but I feel like you don't have to say it.
Especially not when it's Thor's hammer. You really don't have to say
Time for Thor's hammer. Yes. Is it weird that I scream out God of Thunder when I'm alone, frankly, now that we've crossed that threshold?
I think it's probably weirder when you're in the bathroom, going to the bathroom to scream that than.
Now that's not a thing you do when you're raising daughters. Like any reference to your penis when raising daughters is they pick up on it. They don't like it. It's not great role modeling. And so I evade those. Although we do have sex positive conversations, and we always have. It's never been a weird thing. And I hate when men say, "Oh, that's your mother's department." I'm like, no, especially not if your daughter is into dudes. It's definitely your department. You can't avoid conversations because you don't know how to have them. You have to learn how to have them. I mean, I've had to learn how to have certain conversations, and my daughters have helped me learn how to have those conversations. So I think that's an important thing I just can't stand that. Because I'm your father and I told you so. I don't like that one either. No, you're not, you fucking fascist authoritarian. Calm down. She just asked you a question.
Yeah. I'm a Jersey mom, so I'm not so good at I'm like, I don't know that this is a democracy in my house, son. But that's, that's
well, then that's okay. Then you get to explain democracy.
Yeah, exactly. But
this isn't
it's funny,
one.
As a boy dad, a boy mom, as a teenager boy mom, I have to contend with everything I say being turned into like I just did to you. Oh, that's what she said. That's what he said. Right. I mean, I almost ran over a squirrel one day with his friends in the car, and I must have said something. Was it a rabbit? A hawk? Oh, it was a hawk. A hawk. The squirrel was crossing the road, and I was driving the car, and I drive a car with 4 14-year-old boys and my 10-year-old daughter to school almost every day, nearly every day. And the squirrel was crossing the road. I was like, oh no, I'm going to hit the squirrel. And then a hawk, a giant, golden, beautiful hawk swoops down in front of my car as the squirrel's running across. And I'm like, oh my God. And I said, that's a huge hawk. Now, I hear hawk. Maybe you hear hawk. Maybe everybody listening hears hawk. 4 14-year-old boys do not hear hawk. They're like, what did she say? She's a huge cock. And it was, oh my God. Anything I said after that, I was like, but it was huge and it came swooping down and it grabbed it. And they're like, yeah, huge cock could grab that. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I have to contend with how to have serious conversations with my son without him turning them into some sexual reference. I can't say many words. I can't say I'm coming. I can't say it's hard. I can't say hawk. Yeah. I mean, it's really challenging.
Yeah, well, you learn that's exactly, I think, what they teach you. All right, let's do the lightning round. I mean, I had so many more serious questions. Let me just ask you real quick, though, just as a way to promote your podcast. You've had some really interesting guests, many of which I haven't. Who's been somebody that you've enjoyed on your new podcast, talking to, getting to know their thoughts on things?
Well, I just talked to Harry Dunn. I loved my conversation with Harry Dunn because Harry Dunn, I think,
Harry's great. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. You've had him.
Harry's a friend. I love Harry Dunn.
He's the best. He's so real and honest, and he loves this country, and he loves his job, and he has a very difficult job, and he's been through some difficult things. He's an incredible person. So that conversation was great. Reed Gallen was great. He's a very smart guy who's also smart enough to no longer be an active Republican because that's not a thing anymore.
That one is really good. I hadn't heard him. I knew who he was, but he's very, very smart at explaining the Republican mindset today. I thought he articulated it, distilled it in a way I hadn't heard until I listened to your podcast, and he's very good. Yeah, I got to give him. I want his number. Damn it.
Yeah, I will give you his number. He's incredible. And Trey Crowder. Do you know Trey?
I know Trey well. Trey's a friend. Okay. Yeah, I love Trey. He's one of the most brilliant, young-ish, comedians out there. Trey's great.
So funny. And I often ask a question. I did my own random questions, and I asked him a question about how well he would do in a zombie apocalypse. And his answer, I nearly wet my pants. It was so funny.
He's so funny. I've said many times that I've said this publicly, I hate him because he's so funny, and a lot of his fans like take that wrong. They're like, "You're a dick. You're just jealous." I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. That's the bit, and it's a compliment to him." All right, no, but I like it that you end your podcast with the fun random questions, and so I wanted to end our joint. I'm stealing that for mine, at least this episode. And so, what have you got? Give me one, and I'll give you one. And since we're going to post this Thanksgiving, I guess it's a Thanksgiving themed, maybe.
Well, I mean, we can. I don't know how many questions we're going to go with, but we can certainly, incorporate the Thanksgiving theme, because it's not necessarily like all the questions have to be about that, because I have questions about random things that don't have to do with Thanksgiving, but we can start with Thanksgiving.
Okay, start with Thanksgiving, and then I'll ask you a Thanksgiving one, and then we'll see what's left.
What would be worse, like a terribly, terribly dry turkey or no stuffing at Thanksgiving?
Well, for me, I mean, that's no stuffing. I love stuffing, and I don't mind how you can dry that turkey right out. I'm loving it. I like dry. Yeah, I like a dry turkey. I like burnt meat and dry turkey. It's more dead to me. I don't know. I know it loses flavor. I know but I'm not as sophisticated with flavor. So, but I love stuffing, and so I would say no stuffing would be bad, and a dry chicken or turkey, I should say, doesn't bother me. So that's mine. Okay.
I'm a team stuffing too.
Okay. I guess mine is, what is your favorite dish that maybe others don't like, alternative-ish? Do you have a preference for Thanksgiving that you like that maybe others don't?
I love Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts, and not everybody loves Brussels sprouts, but I have a problem where once I start eating them, especially if they're roasted well and they're like caramelized, you slice it and the top caramelizes. Yeah. I can eat a scary amount. It's never good for me because I regret it, but I love Brussels sprouts.
I bet that later on they do something inside of you. It's
just like watching your stomach inflate with air, but I have a great recipe for those. I can share.
Favorite dessert then? Thanksgiving dessert.
Oh, let me quiet my Alexa. Alexa, stop. I know where the advent calendars are. Okay. My favorite, I don't know how to turn that off. I'm so not tech savvy. Favorite dessert is pumpkin pie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love pumpkin pie. I love apple anything too as well.
Oh, really? So I have a question about apple pie because we're having this conversation. Might as well. The door's open. It's underwhelming, if you ask me.
Apple pie is underwhelming?
It's all about the crust, right? Like, so
that's, I don't know. Really triggered. Sorry. What were you saying? What was your weird, shitty opinion about apple pie again?
My excellent, wise, Epicurean opinion is that apple pie, I mean, there's a reason. They're like, it's as American as apple pie, which means it's fucking boring. Okay? Apples are fine. Apples, does anyone like, I have to get home.
I just can't. I can't do this. I'm telling you, I can't do what I'm not going to get defensive, and I'm not going to be offensive, but I'm definitely feeling, I want to tell you, I feel unsafe with the way I want to react to your opinion about apple pie. And I've never heard someone say these types of things. And so it's hard.
You could take a bunch of apples, some butter and some cinnamon and put it in your mouth and chew it, and you would make apple pie.
Well, I'll tell you what you can do. Well, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to, because I tried to come off as a different kind of person. You described me as a different kind of person, but I guess I wasn't expecting to have this kind of anger towards my guest ever. And I've interviewed like fascists, and I've felt.
Well, you can call me an apple pie fascist. That's fine. I think it's boring. Wow. And I think that there are a lot more interesting desserts.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I
have an opinion on that. And as people who put cheese on it, that's a whole nother level. But
all right, your final getting to know you, fun, lighthearted question about Thanksgiving or anything else for me, and then me for you. Does that work?
Sure, that works. Okay. It's going to be mean. No, that was going to be mean. I was going to ask, is there somebody at your Thanksgiving situation you're like, oh no, I have to make the small talk? And then how do you navigate that? But I won't ask that question.
We wouldn't. Not my family wouldn't invite that person.
Oh, see, now that's great.
We don't fake it.
I love it. Because I hate that. And you're like, here comes so-and-so.
Nope, you're not coming. But we're not going to your house either. How about that? We're good. Thanks.
I won't ask that question. Okay. If you didn't cook it, you didn't cook the meal and and the food is terrible and you're like, I can't eat this. What do you do in that scenario? Are you going to eat it and be like, oh, I don't feel good?
Yeah. I'm too afraid to upset somebody. I would just stomach it. Or I would find a way. I'd find a way of giving it to the dog or something like under the table subtly, but I'm not letting them. Yeah. I'm probably just eating it. Yeah.
But then again, maybe it's terrible and you don't know it because you like apple pie. So.
Oh boy. Wow.
Apple pie's fine. The Drake's cake's really good.
Well, so my final one to you, and I've been holding on to this, is I heard that you had a paranormal experience. You've talked about this openly, and I wanted you to share that. And I desperately want to see a ghost. Yours sounds very specific, very good though. So go ahead, and then that's all I've got, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think this might be an exclusive, Pete. I don't think I've ever shared this in a conversation of audio nature or print for that matter. I don't think so. But I'm old and there's bleach in my hair. So it's possible that I don't remember. But I will just say this. My ex now husband he grew up in a very, very old house. And I grew up in a new house. And I didn't believe in ghosts. And when I first started dating him, his sister described this ghost that she'd experienced her whole life that stood in her doorway. And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. Ghost, whatever. I don't believe you. So about a year in a relationship, I was in the house by myself, which is strange, but that's because his mother hated me and I was there too much, but it's fine. So I was getting ready in the bathroom alone and I was doing my makeup in the mirror and the mirror happened to reflect back towards my then future former sister-in-law's door frame where she had said to me that year that the ghost would stand there. They had a name. His name was Mr. Priest. So I'm doing my eye makeup, putting on eyeliner, and I see a man in that doorway, super tall. Like he looked like Abe Lincoln to me. And in that quick vision, it was clear as day, was standing in the doorway about 3-4 feet behind me. And no one was home. So I jolted up and I turned to see him because he was there and he wasn't there. And so I was like, that's weird. And so later on in the afternoon, the sister-in-law to be former sister-in-law, she came home and I said, okay, this is going to sound really crazy. But what if I say, I think I saw Mr. Priest? And she was like, well, describe him. And I described him and she said, that's 100% him.
Wow.
No doubt. And then the mother had a conversation with a psychic who said his name and said where he likes to stand, which is in her daughter's bedroom doorway. And that he means no harm. He just wants to observe. And he died in that house. So I'm 99.9% sure that that's who I saw that day.
I like that one. That sounds very believable. You guys corroborated your stories, and I'm going for it. So I'll take it. Maybe I'll get my non-violent ghost someday soon and call him Mr. Priest. Kind of a weird pedophile ghost.
I don't know. It sounds to me like he would have been on like a singing competition show. Like, no, Mr. Priest.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
What song would he sing, though?
I don't know, but you sound like you have a screenplay on your hands. Joe, thank you so much for being on my show for the first time. It's been great getting to know you, and your whole story and career are really inspiring. And keep up the great work. And I do want to mention you're a lot more than just like a writer and someone who is doing a podcast and great on social media, but you actually do a lot of activism. I meant to mention that. And help progressives win elections around the country. And so I want to talk more about that work the next time we talk. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for coming on my podcast and for being my first ever twosome on a podcast. Co-host.
A dual. I don't know what it's called, what we're doing. Simulcast.
There's a word for this? Oh, it's like
when you simulcast your show on another show,
It's like, to me, it's like that crossover event from the 80s, like two casts from two different shows. Like, somebody shows up from Three's Company and
that would be Noel Casler if we have him in here. Thank you so much for joining me. It was awesome. I'm pressing stop.
Thank you, Pete.
All right. There you go. JoJo from Jerz. Go support her on all of the platforms. Sign up for her Substack for free. Pay if you want on Patreon and get more. we had a lot of fun. We've been talking on and off, texting and getting to know each other. She's introduced me to a whole bunch of people. Just a really good and generous person, authentic person who have become friendly with off the air. So it was fun to finally get her on my podcast. And hopefully, I know she's posting this on hers as well. So hopefully that's a whole bunch of new folks listening. And that's awesome. And look forward to talking with her more. Obviously, we were having a good time. That went long. I hope you appreciated it, and maybe you listened to it during your Thanksgiving drive. Are you leaving this early that I'm posting it here on a Tuesday? Anyway, thanks very much for listening. Sign up at patreon.com/PeteDominic. Give a review on Spotify and iTunes. Follow me as well if you're not already in all the different social media platforms that we have to be on because we're independent media, and all those links are in the show notes to my version, my episode of this. And please go let Joe know that you heard her here on the show. It would mean a lot. Hopefully she will come back and we'll do it again. And I will talk to you tomorrow on these lighter, less produced segments here on Thanksgiving week. Appreciate your support. Love y'all. Talk to you later.
Off of your foot, down off of your fence, even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense, and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down, boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. See him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.